Peace, family. Memorial Day has passed, but there is a bit of irony associated with it. When you say celebrate Memorial Day, you're celebrating the rights and privileges that the so-called soldiers fought and died for people to exercise. So have a good time, celebrate Memorial Day, but remember the dead who sacrificed their lives. There's a bit of irony attached to that. I don't believe in none of it though, but the fact of the matter is your rights and privileges that these so-called soldiers fought for are being taken away from us little by little. And if we don't do something to create our own internal means to govern ourselves, what little laws, what little protections that we have will be gone. You know, this irony associated with Memorial Day is almost, well, it is exactly the same irony that you have when they celebrate this country. When you sit up here and say America is the greatest country on the planet, but you can't mention the things that they're great at. It's a little bit ironic. If America's the greatest country on the planet, you should have no problem touting where's number one in this, where's number one in these vital areas. America's number one in one thing and one thing only. Well, two things and two things only. Debt and incarceration. This is the most indebted country on the face of the planet, and they incarcerate more people per capita than anybody in the world. But yet, their only argument they have for their greatness is just that. They're the greatest country on earth, period. You can come back with nothing to say why they're great that puts a beneficial spin on its citizens. Donald Trump was recently quoted saying that, talking about the soldiers that died fighting for these liberties and freedoms. He said, when I look at the graves, I say, what did they get out of this? And I'm like, oh my God. Whenever this man opened up his mouth, he literally gets dumber and dumber. And I cannot believe that out of all the people in this country, this guy is the leading candidate for the Republican Party, and for any party, to run for president of the United States. How this guy qualify, I don't even know how he put his name on the ballot. But that statement alone speaks to his pure ignorance of what sacrifice is. Look, I cannot be the grizzly bear. But you better believe if a grizzly bear stood between me and my children, and it took me to sacrifice my life so my children can get away, guess what? I'm going to be fighting a grizzly bear. When you look at the deaths of soldiers who may or may not have known what they were truly fighting for, but they sacrificed their life to fight for it. And when you look at them and say, what did they get out of it? To answer that question, Donald Trump, what they got out of it, or what they should have got out of it, is the sacrifice worthy of their sacrifice. Their sacrifice of their lives should have continued a way of life for their families. Should have continued a way of life for this country. To be eventually what it promised to its citizens it was going to be. But when you look at how long this country is 247 years old, and it is nowhere near the fulfillment of these obligations. For Donald Trump to say something like that speaks to his man knows nothing about sacrifice. He knows nothing about honor. He is a selfish individual. But that being said, I'm going to conclude this video with saying this. And I'm talking to my people. my people who may be serving in the military right now. This is not the military of 100 years ago. This is the military today. Why on earth are you putting your life at risk to fight for a country where your people are last in every statistical category? You look at the debt, you look at the incarceration rate, you look at the jobs, we're last in all these things. Why on earth? This is not no futuristic ambition that you're fighting for. This is what you're putting your lives on the line right now. Why would you even walk into a recruiter's office, take his phone call, put on a uniform, put your hand over your heart for a country that does nothing but extenuate systemic racism against your own people? And it's getting worse and worse every year. The people who died 100 years ago had no idea this country was going to end up like it is. But today, if blacks don't come together and create their own independent means to sustain their own way of life, can you imagine what this country is going to look like just 10 years from now? It is only through the independent means of blacks building their own will we be able to leverage or slow down the digression, the decadence of this country. There's no way on earth, and that's not selfish, that's not mean, cruel, there's no way on earth any person of color should be serving in the military, serving in the Olympics, anything that perpetuate this false notion of America's so-called greatness that they themselves can't even argue. They themselves can't even argue it. Tell me what other country around here is saying America's greater than them. The Americans do more for their citizens than what they can do for theirs. America's the only country that sit up here and tout that nonsense. And look at, you can't turn on the news now without talking about the high infant mortality rate. If you can't protect the youngest, most vulnerable part of your citizens, its children, being number one and anything else don't even matter. Because if you can't protect your children, in the future of this country is gone. And what's the sense of being number one in anything when you're going to be the last generation to benefit from it? This is ridiculous. I'm in this message here. And if you like this message, and if you like this content, and if you like this pressure that I put on our oppressor, put a little pressure on that like, follow, and share button, and catch me in my next video. Ashe.